So what you just said is very huge. I mean, you're saying that very soon we might see Telangana opening up to games of skill being legal entities.
Absolutely. The draft that we have prepared addresses these issues. But at the same time, it allows for games of skill to happen in a regulated way. In my personal opinion, banning is not the solution. Blanket banning is not the solution. I also don't agree with this solution that ban everything. In terms of sequencing, because there is a loan to service and there were some time pressures, it was decided to use some part of that land to expedite that action. That he would repeatedly mention was that he will dismantle the bureaucracy. So motivating to hear your leader say these kind of things. He did mention that in the last 10 years, good things have happened. You have been involved in many of those good things. If good results are coming for the state, I don't want to stop anything. I get a call. So there's an American company which has a large R&D center here. So this gentleman is the center head of that company. So at 10:30 in the night, I get a call from him, and this person tells me that I have been caught for drunk driving.
A fairy tale was taking shape in the southern part of India during the early 90s. Little did the world know that fueled by technological investments, the city of Hyderabad would soon rise up over the next 20 years to become a potent enough force to give the Bangalores, the Mumbais and the Delhis a run for their money and become one of India's most preferred investment destinations. Joining me right now for a brief and constructive discussion on the same is somebody who's played a very integral part in getting Hyderabad to where it is today. The Special Chief Secretary to the Government of Telangana, the first ever CEO of the Industry and Investment Cell at the Chief Minister's Office, and the head of the SPEED project, Mr. Jayesh Ranjan. Please welcome him. Thank you, sir, for giving us your time in the first place.
Welcome.
And how's life been lately?
No, it's all very exciting. In fact, I have lots of friends in the corporate world, people who are in very interesting job roles, and they take lots of pride in telling that my job is so rich that no 2 days are the same. And I tell them that for me, no 2 hours are the same. So obviously, it has been a wonderful journey. I'm very happy at the space that I'm occupying, the contribution that I'm making. You mentioned about how Hyderabad has emerged as a very strong and a very solid tech hub, not just for India, for the world. I'm happy that I have played some part in getting us there. And the very fact that the reputation of Hyderabad has been built for a variety of things, but one strong reputation is being built is that execution happens quite well. Whatever, see the ministers, the chief ministers, they obviously present the grand vision, they give that confidence. But much more effectiveness comes when people see things happening on the ground. So that is where I believe I have played some important role, because it's very easy to make promises or tell them about the moon. But if the reality on the ground is very different from what is being told, not only does your credibility go down, it actually pulls you down very badly, because that is the reputation you get, that this is one state.
Which is not serious about what they say.
There is a huge gulf. Everyone just talks, nothing happens on the ground. So,
sir, to begin with a very new development, that is, you've just been, after 12 and a half years, one of the longest tenures that I have personally seen during the course of my journalistic career. After almost 12 and a half years, you now take charge as the first ever CEO of the Investment and Industry Cell at the Chief Minister's Office. What does this change, A? And B, where did this entire idea of having a separate wing for the Industry and Investment Cell come about? Whose idea was it? What is the vision behind the formulation?
See, the first part is that the change is not a very abrupt kind of change. And I personally feel very lucky and very fortunate, because in the government, changes happen very drastically also. You can be the secretary to, let us say, the health department today, and tomorrow you can become the agriculture secretary.
It takes you 6 months to just get adjusted to the new department.
So, of course, in the bureaucracy, some people say that this is a way in which you learn multiple things. You are a generalist, you learn as much as you can. But I personally feel that to some extent it is true, but the realities of today demand that people should specialize also in something or the other. And because of the long tenure, I was able to specialize in understanding technology, understanding industrial investments, and so on and so forth. So this responsibility which has come is in a way connected with what I have been doing for the last 12 years. It's not that I have been suddenly asked to.
It's a logical progression, you mean to say?
Logical progression. The only thing is that now I'll be looking at only very strategic kind of projects, not some very routine kind of things which are happening by themselves. Some real big tickets, some real significant projects for which you directly require the intervention of the Chief Minister. There are certain actions for which we can't take the typical bureaucratic, like everything has a file and the file goes to 10 people. Unless the 10th person says yes on that file, you can't do anything, you feel helpless. The world has changed quite a lot. Many of the things require agility, you require very fast decision making, you require to crunch all these levels. So for instance, again, it's not an exact apple to apple parallel, but something very interesting happening in the US these days. So President Trump, when he was campaigning to become the president, one of the things that he would repeatedly mention was that he will dismantle the bureaucracy. And obviously, after he became the president, he engaged Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy for a period of time and created an organization which is called Doge. So, of course, by dismantling, it's not that you will throw out everyone,
Yes.
but you will bring in more efficiencies, etc. The cell's purpose is precisely this. It is Chief Minister's idea. He also has spent now close to a year and a half, and he has also realized that many of the grand plans that he has are getting slowed down just because the file has not been signed by the 10th person. The agility which required is missing in the complete complexities of this bureaucratic hassles and all. So this responsibility has been created to cut down some of that unnecessary processes. And obviously, this is again, there is a very fine line, a very fine dividing line between still being correct and not giving any scope that you are favoring someone or something underhand is happening.
It's very easy to level those allegations.
Yeah, and still pushing the agenda. So I was sharing this example with you off the record that we created the Skills University, the Young India Skills University, in a very record time. And today if someone inquires that, show me the file, how did you select the VC, how did you engage the consultancy firm which worked on this particular project, it will be very difficult not to pick holes in those files, that you did not follow this process, you did not do that. But the fact is that it was done in a particular way with good intention. So the person who has been appointed as the VC is not my relative or the Chief Minister's relative. The consultancy firm which did this job, they did not strike a deal with me that, okay, after I get my payment, I'll be passing this much to you, that much to Chief Minister.
So you're saying even if there are loopholes, they were not done to either support or go against any particular section. It was rather done with the greater good in mind.
Precisely. That is what. So that is the intent, that and the other thing is that, which again, this is something which is not very familiar to a majority of the bureaucracy, but again, the responsibilities that I delivered over the last 10, 12 years, that gave me this particular orientation also, which is to bring the private sector to be a part of the implementation process. So again, to share a real example with you. So in the last 10, 12 years, we have created many institutions. There's a T-Hub, for example. Exactly. There is an Invest Telangana cell. There's a skilling institution called TASK. So like that, I was taking stock the other day. There are a dozen such institutions. Right. And you will not believe it. The viewers may not believe it. In these dozen institutions, there's not even one single government employee who works.
All of them are private.
All of them are private. So there are close to 500 plus private people who have all been motivated to join the government. They work as a kind of a very committed, very dedicated employee. They deliver. Each have their own KPIs.
Was it difficult to convince them, sir? Because it's a very tricky proposition.
So it is like this. So people do believe. So when 12 years back, when this idea was first mooted, that you can create these institutions, you can bring. So it's not to say that the government has no talent. This is not the assumption or the bottom line that I'm driving at. The government does have lots of talent. But our belief was that there is far better talent outside the government than in the government. And let us see if we can motivate them to become a part of the government. So when this idea was first mooted, many of my colleagues with whom I shared this informally, that this is what is going to happen. One of them, I recall, even commented that your whole job will be from today onwards to run an employment exchange. You will recruit some 10 people 2 months later, they'll
Yeah,
say
HR.
that government is not the right agency for me. They will drop out. You'll recruit another 5. So your whole job will be to run an employment exchange and HR. You'll be recruiting people, letting them go, recruiting the next ones. But I can share this with you. So as I told, we have more than 500 people who work for the government today. If I don't have precise data, but anecdotally, if I have to recall and share this with you, I can tell you, and I won't be way off the mark, 80% of them or more have completed at least 5 years with the government. And those who have left also, no one has left because there is some dissatisfaction. Someone has left. Many of them, these 500 odd people are very young people, and many of them want to study further, so they've got some
The attrition is negligible, you say.
negligible, and those who are going also are going for a very valid reason. If someone wants to do a master's in the US, you're not going to stop
Hold them
him
back,
or threaten him or some such thing. It's a good thing that they are learning further and so on and so forth. So attrition is less. And then if you ask how has it happened, it's not that we are paying them some enormous salaries. They're getting good salaries above the government norms for sure. But the private sector salaries would have been even better. So it is somewhere in between. So it is not salary alone, but the kind of autonomy that we have created for them, the kind of responsibility that are given to them, the decision-making freedom that is given to them. There are no hierarchies. No one asks them to report to them every day. You'll be surprised to know, in the government, another very sacrosanct thing is leave. Like you have to apply for leave. Suppose, let us say tomorrow, I develop some fever or I have some work at home. I have to tell the chief secretary that please give me 1 day's leave. In my institution, there is no concept of leave.
Got it.
So if someone has some personal work, they are
Basically,
free
it's a government organization run like a corporate entity.
Precisely. So obviously, all these things have given results. It's not that all this thing is only for show, just to look good and speak glibly about it in these kind of occasions. They are also delivering results. So these things have got noticed, that I have that knack to bring the consultancies, the private sector, institutions, individuals, to attract the best of talent to work for us.
Would you say you've been rewarded with this position for 12 and a half years of work? Is that how you're looking at it personally?
This is what I see. So, and this is something which I've developed this expertise, building institutions, building teams, bringing the best talent, but having an oversight also. It is not to say that I'm now totally blinded by what is going on. I have no control. There's a strong oversight mechanism, but it's not a typical policing mechanism. I'm not checking every
Not micromanaging.
time. Not micromanaging.
Sir, another new term we've come across is the SPEED project. And just for the favor of our viewers, SPEED stands for, I believe, smart, proactive, efficient, and effective delivery. What does this mean when we say delivery? What are we talking about? And second aspect, is this in sync with, I remember the Chief Minister of Andhra Pradesh once mentioning that it's the era of speed of doing business now. It's all going to depend on not ease of doing business, but speed of doing. Ease of doing business is an age-old thing which doesn't work anymore. So is it in sync with that, a similar concept?
It has, of course, some overlap. The concepts do overlap, but our speed has 3-4 other connotations also. So one is that the scale of the projects which are under the speed bundle are very vast. So for example, I mean, as you can see, we have the banner of Telangana rising. Now, to many people, this may just look like a slogan. Telangana, like some vibrant Gujarat or some magnificent Maharashtra. This is a slogan, but this is way beyond a slogan. Telangana rising actually encapsulates what the Chief Minister and his cabinet colleagues, they want to deliver in the next 25 years. So this is something which is called a vision for 2050.
Got it.
Now, obviously, the vision will have multiple dimensions. The vision will have infrastructure, vision will have improving quality of life, vision will have education, vision will have skills, vision will have urban planning, so vision will have climate change. So there are so many dimensions of that vision. And for each dimension, you will have programs, you'll have projects. Some of the projects will be long gestation projects. You can't instantly see results, but some projects obviously will have to be rolled out very quickly. Some projects will require tremendous amount of private sector participation. Some projects will require bringing the best global expertise onto the table. So speed encapsulates all these kind of things, doing multiple things at the same time without losing focus and bringing the best partners to deliver, but have clear delivery goals, clear delivery timelines. So speed is not for the sake of speed. Speed
Got
meaning
it.
the fast tracking of
Without losing
execution.
out on the essence of the
Yes.
procedure
So that is what.
in question.
And Chief Minister felt that, see, again, this is how government has been structured, or bureaucracy is structured. There are departments. So every department has its own mandate, department has some procedure, department has ministers. So sometimes lots of things get lost. You speak about essence. Some of this essence gets lost in this departmental procedure. So the Chief Minister is very clear that he will control, or let us say he will have control over this institution, which will cut through department.
Coming to the Chief Minister, sir, in a very recent podcast that I was listening to during the course of my research exercise building up to this podcast, I remember you mentioned how the Chief Minister opted to continue with certain initiatives that the previous government had taken charge of. And I believe even politicians deserve respect where due. It would have been very easy for a politician coming in to say, you know what, pull the plug on all of these things, let me build up my vision and start from scratch once again. And we've seen examples of that in neighboring states as well.
Yes.
Where the Lulu example being the most famous one that I can think of. How did that entire thing happen? What were the conversations like, and what went into convincing the Chief Minister that these are initiatives that you need to continue considering the greater good of the state and the city?
So, see, this conversation happened fairly early. In fact, within days of current Chief Minister taking over as the Chief Minister, he called me. And in this conversation, he mentioned this. It is so motivating to hear your leader say these kind of things. He did mention that in the last 10 years, good things have happened. You have been involved in many of those good things. If good results are coming for the state, I don't want to stop anything. State's priorities, state's welfare, state's well-being is far more important. So please continue. But you have to ensure that we get, the current government get much more recognition, much more respect, much more goodwill by your results, by your hard work, etc., which is all we want. See, when I do some work, it is not for my own publicity.
Exactly.
Or for my own reputation. I want eventually for good things to happen to the state.
Exactly.
Credit goes to the people who are empowering us to do these kind of things. So that's how it happened. And obviously over the next 1.5 years, he noticed what are the things which are happening. The Chief Minister accompanied us on 4 occasions to international visits, where he saw how one deals with global community, what do they want to hear, what is the thing that as a Chief Minister only he can assure them and no one else can. And he appreciated all these things. And then while we go abroad and also in Hyderabad, when we interact, I did suggest to him that the conventional way of working will not suit. And
Exactly.
I gave him an example of, as I was telling you, of the Skills University.
Yes.
And another example, which also not many people know, but coincidentally I was associated with it. See, we have the outer ring road today,
Yes.
and it's a beautiful road. We all travel on it every day. It has made a big difference to the economic dynamics of Telangana now, earlier Andhra Pradesh. And I once remember I told Honorable Chief Minister that today it looks very nice and well-laid road, etc. But when this project was conceptualized and when it started, it was a very complicated project. 20,000 acres of lands had to be acquired. Alignment had to be finalized, the engineering designs had to be finalized. Most importantly, funding had to be tied up in different ways. And then the project had to be executed as per a particular time. But had it been done in a conventional government way, even 20 years later, we would have been still struggling and checking what is not happening, what is difficult. But in 2 years flat, we were able to deliver the entire 160 kilometers of outer ring road. And there is a particular way in which it happened. It's not
how much of that had to do with sheer political will to do it, sir?
So political will enabled us to do things in a particular way. So there were 3 very important enabling things which happened. So one was that a dedicated officer was made outer ring road project director. He had no other work. His only task was outer ring road, and he was obviously a hand-picked officer. All decision-making processes were cut to help him execute things faster. So his files would not go to the finance department, his files would not go to the chief secretary, his files would not go to the minister. He would report only to me. as vice chairman of the Hyderabad Urban Development Authority. And he and I together would take instructions from one senior officer and one person from the Chief Minister's office. And once we would get green signal, even without waiting whether a file is prepared, where signatures are taken, we would put that into action.
Got it.
So that was one, that dedicated officer, small team which empowers him, cut through all the chains of decision making, crunching the levels of bureaucracy, support from the highest levels. Because the outer ring project, the ring road project, the Chief Minister at that time had also realized that it can be a game changer. So it was a priority project for him.
Right.
He was willing to support and back it all the way.
Right. So before getting into the present and the future of Hyderabad, I take the liberty to ask you one question about the history. I mean, reading up, I remember 1986, if I'm not wrong, the first IT tower was established in Begumpet, called Infographic, if I'm not wrong. From then to 2025, if you had to highlight, because you've been a part of this journey for almost 12 and a half years, and you have led teams which were responsible for doing this in the first place. If you had to pick out 2 or 3 instances during the course of the last 3 decades, and I don't mean political aspects here, rather more constructive aspects, what were those instances, or what were those movements, or what were those who were those personalities who eventually shaped Hyderabad to be where it is today? What were the pegs that fell into order to lead to Hyderabad becoming a superpower today?
See, so one very important factor, and see, as you know, for the IT world, particularly over the last 10 years or so, for many companies, it is becoming a Hyderabad versus Bangalore kind of a story, a competition, a choice, so to say. And I know for sure that we are much ahead in the current race. So Bangalore had a head start. The size of the industry is much bigger.
Would you say
there.
Hyderabad has overtaken Bangalore by now?
So it's like this. On some parameters, we have overtaken. So currently, the last 5-6 years again, one very important part of IT that we see today is called GCCs, Global Capability Centers. So we have won this race. For the last 3 years, more number of GCCs have come to Hyderabad than they have gone to Bangalore. And about this year also, I'm pretty sure, because there are many engagements. Some are at early stage, some are at a mature stage. There are in fact 2 really headline-grabbing GCCs, which we'll be announcing in possibly in a month or so. So Hyderabad's momentum on GCC is very strong. So obviously, we have stolen a march over Bangalore, but on 2 other parameters also. So one parameter is how many new jobs are getting created and how many new companies are coming to a country. Of course, most of them are GCC, so there's some overlap between this parameter and what I shared earlier. But number of new jobs that are getting created, more number of jobs are getting created in Hyderabad in the IT sector than any other city. Not just Bangalore, any other city as well. And the year-on-year growth. So Bangalore, when I mentioned this, year-on-year growth of Hyderabad is the highest. Bangalore people do make a point, which has some merit, saying that their base is already so high that you can't go much beyond that. So agreed. The other important statistic, which not many people know of it, that in 2014, when Telangana became a new state, the size of the industry in Bangalore was 3 times bigger. The number of people working in the sector, the value of software which was getting...
It was 3x.
3x. Now we have been able to bring it down to 2.1x.
That's huge in 10 years.
Yeah, precisely. And I'm very confident that if this momentum maintains, it won't take us 10 years to bridge it to literally head to head.
Got it.
So momentum is very good. And so if you ask me, so I'll answer, you have already asked me, but I'll answer it in a relative way. What's not working there and what is working here. So one, of course, is continuity. Successive governments from late 80s, early 90s have recognized that this is an industry which can bring lots of jobs, which can create economic buoyancy. It can become a big contributor to your state's GDP. But this industry also is expecting certain standards from the government. For example, infrastructure, talent, and government support. So successive governments have done that. I'm not saying, so even today when people tell about what used to happen in 1990s and all that, and the officers who used to work there, I know many of them, they're all mostly my seniors only, my colleagues. And the kind of respect they have for those officers, that this officer instantly cleared this file, this officer immediately agreed that this is a proposal worth supporting. So we see the same kind of continuity. Thereafter also, successive governments, successive officers maintained that momentum, dedicated infrastructure, good quality infrastructure was created. Talent is again a very important differentiator. And again, I feel very happy that colleges in Telangana, even now, earlier as well and even now, have been given the autonomy and freedom to introduce latest topics in their courses. For about 1 year, 8 months, I myself was the officiating Vice Chancellor of JNTU. So I know about it, that how we have empowered the colleges. They can select any new course, bring good faculty development happens. So
bridging the skill gap. So.
Yeah, bridging the skill gap. So on that also, Hyderabad has remained very, very up to date. Even a very unusual, so for example, again, I'm saying so without any disrespect to anyone, but many of our viewers would know. There's a government college in the old city which is called the City College. Now, typically, again, as I said, without meaning any disrespect, you don't associate people who live in the old city with advanced technology and all that. They are nice people, they do all kinds of other things, but normally you won't associate them with high technology. Now, a few weeks ago, I was in the City College for a different purpose. There was some wildlife related event. I was asked to come, give some prizes and all that. But the principal must have found out that I'm around, so he came to meet me. And he told me that for the last 3-4 years, he has introduced courses on artificial intelligence, machine learning, blockchain, cybersecurity. And he told me that these are the most oversubscribed courses. So
considering the demand in the market.
It's so heartening that even people who live in old city understand what is the value of new generation technologies. There is so much of demand for these kind of courses, and the same is true of various parts and pockets in Telangana. So the skill quotient that way is very high. The government has also introduced initiatives like Task, now the Skills University, YISU. So that is again a big differentiator for us. Plus the sheer responsiveness of government. So even today, if you go to the Hyderabad area and meet, let us say, 200 top center heads, tech center heads of Hyderabad, you will find that all of them have my mobile number with them. Not only my mobile number, many of them will have my minister's mobile number also with them. And the expectation is that if there is any issue, and as a government, we always assure them that nothing is off the table. It is not only about your software or some product you have developed, you want to
I remember you mentioning that you're okay with helping them with school admissions also.
Everything is...
but what was the most bizarre request you ever got, if you can share that without taking names?
No, I can tell this. I mean, it is quite bizarre, but again, in a way, it's a very interesting example. So it happened some months ago rather, during that Christmas season. So it was late in the night, around 10:30 in the night. I get a call. So there's an American company which has a large R&D center here. So this gentleman is the center head of that company. So at 10:30 in the night, I get a call from him. And this person tells me that I have been caught for drunk driving. Can you help me? So I don't drink and I don't drive either. So this concept of drunk driving is very alien to me. I don't understand. Of course, I understand that it means trouble, but I have never personally
gone through that
experience at all. So I realized that he's in trouble and that is why he's calling me. So I did tell him that you are a senior leader, people look up to you, don't do these kind of things. And he also appeared very kind of sorry and apologetic. And the moment I disconnected his call, then I called a batchmate of mine is in a very high position in the police. So I told him that please let him go. So that is the meaning. Of course, when I say so, it doesn't mean that now the entire tech companies should drink and drive recklessly and all that. But the point I'm trying to tell is that nothing is.
No, I can only imagine somebody at the special chief secretary level getting a call at 10:30 p.m. saying I'm caught in a drug check.
No. I mean, obviously that person also. It's not every day that police catches you and
obviously
you feel a bit kind of
taken aback, so to say. To move on with the question, sir, you've been very vocal about, and you and the minister both have been very vocal about making AI the front stage product that Telangana government is going to be investing on over the period of the next 5, 10, 20 years. Everybody's talking about AI, but what we don't get a lot of times is what are the use cases. AI is a very broad term, can be used in every industry possible. But what are the use cases that you have identified that the Telangana government is going to be working on? And is there scope for AI being implemented, or it's rather being put into government processes as well to improve them? Because we believe law and order across the world is also being influenced by AI. So what is your take on both of these things?
No, 100%. So this is exactly what we are doing. When we are talking about AI as a technology that the Telangana government should push, we are not speaking about concepts or theoretical research. Of course, all that also needs to be done, but it is exactly what you mentioned. Our whole push is on use cases. In fact, you may recall almost 6 months ago or 8 months ago, in September last year, 2024, we hosted a very big global summit here on AI, Global AI Summit. And the theme of that summit was making AI work for everyone. The whole idea was to explore how can AI help people. I mean, it's not just about the science behind AI or development of algorithms, development of data sets. All those are building blocks, but a common person would like to know how can I benefit from AI. So use cases is precisely where our attention is, our focus is. And like any other technology from the very beginning, this has been a very consistent part of all the technology policies, technology frameworks that we have developed over the last 12 years or so, that the government will become the first adopter. I won't just talk and lecture and tell others to do it. I will do it myself and show to you how we are doing it. And I'm happy to share with you, as a part of this Global AI Summit, we created an AI roadmap. What exactly will government do over the next, let us say, 5 years or so? And the initial results are very, very encouraging. We have been able to introduce AI in very innovative ways in various government processes, and at some appropriate time, we want to actually conduct some kind of a public showcase of all those solutions that different government agencies are implementing and deploying.
Sir, what's your take and what's the government's take on AI being a double-edged sword? Because there's a lot of chat around AI being dangerous, people being able to weaponize AI, data privacy. A lot of these concerns are being picked up.
So those concerns are valid. I'm not saying that these are all imaginary or fictitious. There are blatant cases of misuse of AI also. In fact, you yourself would have seen some weeks ago, a deep fake AI generated imagery was kind of circulated to show that government has killed some animals and things like that. So AI can also mislead people. Lots of individuals have been harmed actually by wrong use of these tools. But it does not mean that because of the potential of harm, the opportunities that AI is creating should also be kind of abandoned. The potential of AI is very, very strong. In fact, I have attended many important conferences on AI, both in India and also abroad. And when I hear some of the use cases, some of the applications that are going on across the world, my mind simply boggles. In fact, I remember many years ago, I was a student at Harvard, decades ago, and we used to be taught one course. And I recall the title of that course was Innovative Solutions to Intractable Problems of Developing Countries. So the implication was that there are certain problems which are so complicated that possibly in this lifetime, you won't even see them getting solved.
Got it.
So, but today when AI has come, there is nothing about which you can say the same way that this can never be solved. There's no never kind of thing anymore in the vocabulary. AI has the potential to solve some of the most complicated diseases, some of the other challenges, some challenges pertaining to climate, challenges pertaining to mobility, to sustainability, to fuel, to energy. I mean, literally every possible thing, there is a potential. If we have not yet solved it, it is only that we are getting kind of limited by our imagination.
Exactly.
But potentially AI can solve everything. See, so many technologies have come and gone. I remember 12 years ago when I first became involved in the tech sector, one phrase used to be very popular, and in every conference, everyone would be speaking about that phrase. That is called SMAC, SMAC. So S stood for social, M stood for mobile, A stood for analytics, and C stood for cloud. So of course, all these are still there, not to say that we have lost sight of them, but new things came up after that. Internet of Things, Internet of Everything, then blockchain. and cybersecurity. So like a fad,
Metaverse revolution.
metaverse. So like a fad, these things will remain there. They will dominate everyone's imagination. Then the next fad will begin. Of
I
course,
think AI is the one technology which sort of is way beyond a fad.
precisely, exactly. That's the point I was trying to make. That it is way beyond fad. People are realizing that it can help you in different ways. So recently, I was in a global conference where, while we were discussing other topics, but this topic just kind of sprung up, which is how school children are using AI to do their assignments and all that. And
ChatGPT another.
yeah, and is it impacting their creativity? Is it, see, you have gone to school, I have gone to school. In our times, you had to do your own homework. And obviously, while you may not enjoy doing your homework, but in a different way, it kind of created some structure in your minds. How do you analyze information, creativity? I mean, you became a problem solver.
Exactly.
It helped you. Now, if machine is doing your homework, are you losing all those skills? The skill to analyze, problem solve, look at alternatives, write some 10 lines coherently. If the whole thing is being done by a machine, does it push you back? And will the children of the future, will they be low in terms of
IQ?
In terms of their IQ as compared to you or me or anyone else? So this topic came up. Now, it is a valid thing. There is definitely a challenge. But the point which eventually the rest of us and myself, I was also in the panel, we all kind of agreed upon was that one thing is that we are recognizing that these are problems. And
yes,
there are obviously people who are concerned about these problems, and they have in them the wherewithal to introduce solutions, introduce regulations, introduce checks and balances. So just as ChatGPT or any other of these Gen AI solutions can do your homework, there are tools which also can figure out whether you have done it or a machine.
They were paraphrasing tools which came in a few years ago, but then also plagiarism checkers, right?
Precisely.
So
that's what. And I'm sure a day is not far when the authorities actually will ban physically, in terms of a law or in terms of a regulation, that you cannot use a tool to do your homework and all.
Got it. So you just mentioned that a deepfake video or a lot of visuals for that matter were used to attack the government at multiple stages. I'm not going to get into the legal aspect because the matter is sub judice. But procedurally, do you believe that things could have been done a little differently? Because that is the question being raised on the department at this point in time.
See, it is sub judice, so I can't reveal too much. But see, it's like this. The procedures, since I'm part of the decision-making process, I can share at least this much with you, that there was no intention to completely avoid the procedures. There was an intent to follow the procedures for the entire extent of land.
Got it.
In terms of sequencing, because there is a loan to service and there were some time pressures, it was decided to use some part of that land to expedite that action. But when the whole entirety of that land, which is 2,000 acres plus, when that is being master planned, then it will cover this particular land also. So there's no intention to completely avoid procedures.
Got it.
But in terms of sequencing, etc., the procedure.
Eventually, how it transpired, I don't think anybody expected that to happen. Coming to another very emerging and important sector, so that the entire world is talking about right now, is game tech. I would genuinely request you to answer this from two standpoints. One is a regulatory standpoint, because I think Telangana is one of the states which has outrightly banned all real money gaming apps. Now, this could be games of skill or games of chance, despite their existing court orders which sanctify certain formats as legal formats to run in India. The state government of Telangana, back in the day, the gaming act that was brought in, has banned everything. Over 1 lakh employees across the country is what the industry boasts of today. And today, with already the burden of GST, the industry has almost been crippled, right? But when major markets like Hyderabad, major markets like, say, Bangalore or certain other states are not viable for them or are banned, how do they go forward? Is this something that the government is discussing at this point in time?
No. So it's a nice coincidence that you ask this, because on 17th, we are having very broad consultations on this. So, in my personal opinion, banning is not the solution. Blanket banning is not the solution. I also don't agree with this solution that ban everything. So that's not true. But it is also a reality that the decision to ban was brought in after certain episodes.
So the
certain
knee-jerk
incidents.
reaction to...
Yeah, so you can't deny that everything was rosy and unnecessarily we have banned a particular sector. So we also need to address those issues. Some people have got addicted, some people have run into debt, some people have committed suicide, some people have committed crimes. Those have also happened. But fortunately, today we have technology, we have regulations, we have institutions, we can check all that. We can prevent all that. So the draft that we have prepared addresses these issues. But at the same time, it allows for games of skill to happen in a regulated way. Now, on the 70th, so all this background work on creating a draft bill on online gaming has all been prepared. But what has come to our knowledge now is, see, there is one issue on which there is some difference between what the national government has proposed and what, as a state with autonomy, we want to do. So there is a concept called a self-regulatory
organization,
SRO, self-regulatory organization, which needs to.
This was proposed, in fact,
by the Government of India bill. But experiences across the country and globally also has shown that SROs themselves can become institutions biased, and someone can game them. They are open to capture.
More often than not, they support one entity in the industry or the other.
Elite capture, etc. So we have examined an alternative where there is no SRO, but still all the checks and balances still kind of...
So what you just said is very huge. I mean, you're saying that very soon we might see Telangana opening up to games of skill being legal entities.
Absolutely. And see, and the other thing is that when you ban something, it opens a grey market. So currently also...
State is missing out on the revenue. People are anyway playing those games.
People are playing the games using VPNs and using proxies and all that. So why lose out on that revenue?
Got it. So coming to what is the future that you're looking at for Hyderabad? To over 2.4 lakh investments, a lot of MOUs signed. Your recent trip to Japan, I believe, threw up commitments around 12,000 CR of commitments. But two important questions here. One, what is the conversion ratio from MOUs or LOIs to actual implementation? Because a lot of times we've seen that a lot of MOUs are signed, but practically on field that does not happen. So in your experience, what is the safe number to say, okay, this is the conversion ratio?
No. So we maintain data, we monitor. So I again feel very proud about mentioning this, that the national conversion ratio throughout the country, historically, from 1950, over the last 70 years, 75 years or so, is just about 48%.
That means if 1 lakh crores is assured, 48,000 CR is actually being invested.
Throughout the country. Of course, it differs from state to state. Against that national average of 48%, ours is above 80%.
Got it.
And again, some of the MOUs are very new. For instance, some were signed in Davos in January. Some have been signed in the Japan trip and so on. And also because of the fact that COVID kind of has delayed things for about a couple of years or so. So if you give me another year or let us say 18 months, I'm very confident that our conversion ratio will cross 90%.
Got it.
But you have to compare this with the national average of, let us say, 48%. So when everyone else is at 48%, I'm at 90%. That itself shows that whatever we tell whatever is assured or whatever is told actually translates into action on the ground.
Got it.
So that is a very good indicator that the going is good on the ground.
Just 2-3 quick questions. I know you're running out of time. One is work from home versus work from office debate, right? There's this notion largely, I'm not just talking about Telangana government or the city of Hyderabad here. There's this notion largely amongst IT employees that governments push for a hybrid model or a work from office model, primarily because work from home essentially dents the economy. Because they don't get out, most of them don't even relocate, they can work from their own remote locations. Is this notion right? Because is there an impact on economy when work from home is established, especially post-COVID? Secondly, what do you think is the way forward? Because lately we see this entire debate of work-life balance versus a 70-hour week. Where do you stand on that?
So my position is like this. So when we were kind of coming out of COVID, I was one of the very strong proponents of everyone coming back to office. I would have spoken about it on multiple forums. I addressed industry. Sometimes I used very strong language also. So one of the reasons why I made all these comments was that it supports economy, but it supports the bottom of the pyramid economy. And we should feel responsible about them. So otherwise we won't notice. For example, I come to my office, some security guard has checked me and sent me inside, someone has given water to me, someone will bring my lunch, someone will drive me back. If I'm not coming at home, none of these people are required to do anything.
Exactly.
And they are not people of means. They can survive 1 month of COVID, 2 months of COVID, but they can't survive years of COVID. So you must feel responsible that my coming to home supports 10 livelihoods. And why should I be casual about it? And just because I'm enjoying at home, I can do 3 jobs simultaneously using 3 laptops. I mean, I found it very morally irresponsible that I'm caring the least about the bottom of the pyramid kind of people whose livelihoods
depend on your
depend upon
actions, so to say.
So that is one. The second is something which I alluded to when I was talking about the 500 odd people who work for the government who have all been taken from the private sector. So as I mentioned, there's no policing on them. There is no concept of leave. They're free to do what they want to do. Now, the only thing which they are answerable for is the deliverables they are expected to bring. If I'm let us say, the CEO of T Hub, I expect you to do these things. And you are the best judge to decide whether I can do the best by being in the office or by being at home.
Got it.
If you feel that if I'm in the office, I can meet 10 people, I can run ideas, I can invite people, I can take stock, and therefore my efficiency goes up, then you should do that. If you feel that no, meeting people is a waste of time, it actually eats away from what I could have done much better, then you are the judge. So I leave it to them. If you're in a job where being with others helps your productivity, just because it is nicer and easier to be at home, you should not take that decision.
So an integral part of your job over the years has been interacting with industrialists, interacting with business stakeholders, or any relevant stakeholder for that matter. Political will has a positive impact on investments coming in. But do controversies, I mean, by this I'm coming to a certain point related to Hyderabad. When you see that certain other cities which are possibly on the investment radar are at the center of certain controversies concerning languages being spoken, especially the Hindi debate, right? We've seen instances emerging from Bangalore, we've seen instances emerging from Chennai. So the culture of Hyderabad, which is welcoming, and most people in Hyderabad that I've met are more than proud to speak Hindi. It's not even a question in their head, right? Do these aspects also impact your discussions and the way the city is perceived?
In fact, we use it cleverly in our discussions. Sometimes, as I told you, at the end of it, at the end of the day, for the investor, it is either a Hyderabad or a Bangalore. And then you feel compelled to tell them that what is it that you will gain in Hyderabad, which you will miss out in Bangalore. And if there are some actual incidents, it's all fair. You can tell them that, see, in Bangalore...
It's in public notice anyway.
It's in public notice. It's not that I'm creating something or I'm kind of exaggerating, but if something has happened, we use that. So it has worked actually. On many occasions, people have understood that in Hyderabad, it's not that way. People are nicer, government is supportive, there are no challenges, no barriers. So we use all this, whatever is happening.
Lastly, sir, over your illustrious career, if you had to pick one great achievement, and if you had to pick, again, not to take it to political lines, but India has always played catch up when it comes to Web 1.0, Web 2.0. Now we're talking about Web 3.0. Now there's already people talking about Web 3.5, 5.5, God knows what else is coming up. But your achievement, is India ever going to be at the center of development? Do you see that happening? And your achievement on those lines?
No. So this is a question about which I have also thought quite a lot, and I have spoken about it. So what I tell people whenever I get a chance to mention things related to this question is that, of course, geographically, technically, India is one country. We are all Indians. We feel proud about it. But in reality, there are 28 Indias.
Yes.
There's no one India. There are 28 Indias. And if we develop each of these 28 Indias independently, autonomously, we give support to them, the national government supports, global partners support, gradually all 28 will reach a particular level of development, which right now is not happening. There are about 6 to 8 to 10 Indias which are at one level, 10 Indias which are at a lower level, 5, 6 Indias which are really still kind of at a very, very early stage. So for an investor also, we tell them that look at which of these 28 Indias is more aligned with your own priorities, with your own long-term interests, with your own ways of working, with your culture, with the kind of reforms that you expect. And if you feel that Telangana is that India, then make us your gateway. So that is the reality. Let us not bother about one big, I mean, of course, I'm not saying so with any disrespect
Obviously,
about our country. The country flag is behind us, both your side, my side, we respect it. But this is a practical way of looking at it.
pragmatic way of it.
Otherwise, people will always be commenting that India is missing the bus, nothing is happening. So I'll give you an example. See, I have studied in the US, and I know that, and in India also I've gone to some of the best institutions.
Not a lot of people know you're a master in psychology.
Yeah. But I've also done a master's in business management from IIM Calcutta, so one of the best business schools. So, and then I've studied at Harvard as well. So, and otherwise also I go abroad frequently. I meet in international community. One comment which everyone makes about India is that the education curriculum is not at all agile. People still teach 19th century kind of things, and that is what they tell, that you get nice people, they're hardworking and all that, but in terms of their knowledge, their awareness, their skills, and the method of teaching is also very exam oriented, rote learning and all. So
you're making machines out of kids.
Machines out of it. So that is one disadvantage which India faces. Now, there's a national education policy which has been introduced, which is very good. I mean, if you read it page by page, paragraph by paragraph, it's all very nice. But nothing has been implemented to the best of my knowledge. But if you leave it to the states that this is a challenge, you think what your state can offer. And whatever we have done in Telangana, we have given, as I said, autonomy to colleges. I gave you the example of the city college in Old City, which is teaching AI today to the students. We have created an institution called TASK, which further supplements and provides finishing. We have created a skills university. So very shortly, maybe in a matter of couple of years, you will see that the skill levels, the knowledge of curriculum, technologies, the finishing that our students possess will be as good as students anywhere in the world.
I was actually coming to that question because when a TCS comes out and says we have 80,000 jobs and we're not getting skilled workers,
Precisely.
It is a huge concern. I mean, you might create jobs, but who's going to take that up?
Exactly.
And so what is your take on local reservations? Because a couple of other states have tried it in the private sector. I mean, it did not work out well for these states.
Yeah. So we observed all that, and during the time of the previous government, this issue came up, but I was able to convince Chief Minister and the cabinet not to do it. But we brought in something which still satisfies local aspirations also. It is not to say that you totally ignore local aspirations. So what our policy is that there is no reservation, but if you give more jobs to local people, you will get more advantages. Some additional incentives will be given. And to create qualified people amongst the local population, we have taken two initiatives. One is a new initiative which is called the Digital Employment Exchange of Telangana, or DEET. So a company, if is serious in looking at local talent, there's a platform in which thousands of CVs can be made available to you. And the second are these two initiatives, Task and Skill University, where the quality of skilling will be much better so that you get people of the standard that you are used to in your global operations, etc., etc.
Fair to say that tourism in Telangana was neglected for quite a few years? Because we don't see, because tourism happens to be one of your portfolios that you'll be taking charge of now. Would it be fair to say that it was neglected by successive governments? Because we don't see a God's own country like a Kerala. We've never even seen that push coming in from the state.
No, I agree with you. And so I used to be the tourism secretary in the combined state of Andhra Pradesh. I worked in this sector for more than 3 years. And I have a good understanding of the sector. Of course, half the state, now we have only half the state. Some of the attractions which I used to have in the combined state, they're not with us. But
Tirupati being the biggest to them.
Yeah, Tirupati, Visakhapatnam, and some other locations. But whatever is with us now also is still pretty good. I'm not complaining that way. We have the jewel in the crown, which is Hyderabad, and so many other things. The new things have happened. World Heritage Site recognition has come to Ramappa, and then there are lots of ecotourism opportunities. So the whole idea is that we will create experiential tourism. I mean, that is what, today coincidentally, it is 2 o'clock. I just took charge a couple of hours ago. So I'm just 2 hours old in this responsibility. But I have worked in this sector. I have knowledge and understanding. So my whole focus will be on what is called as experiential tourism. There'll be hundreds of destinations which we will map. And what experiences can you create for different kinds of tourists? But more than anything else, see, the government cannot create these experiences by itself. You have to bring in the private sector in a very wholehearted kind of way. So how is the current policy supporting private sector participation? What else can be done? I know that a tourism policy was introduced just about a month ago, but if it requires some revision to encourage more and more private sector to participate, we will do that. Honorable CM is very clear that the potential of tourism that is there in Telangana, we have not tapped even a very small part of it. And as you know, we are the host host state for the Miss World event, which again starts in another 7-8 days time. That also surely is an opportunity for us to capitalize upon.
Got it.
See, not everyone gets the chance to host Miss World.
Exactly.
So it's a big opportunity. We should showcase and then use this year after year after year to bring more and more visibility, bring more tourists to Telangana.
Sir, your closing comments on, I'll go back to that question again, because you've had such an illustrious career. One big achievement, if you had to name one. Secondly, because you worked with successive administrations, one similarity and one dissimilarity between the both. I'm not, again, here looking at the politics of it, but rather from an execution standpoint.
So see, it's like this. Both the governments had their own strengths. When the previous government was there, Telangana was a new state. And it was decided that we will not copy any of the Andhra or the combined state policies. We will create our own policies. So some of the policies, some of the reforms. So the first IT policy, where the decision taken to create innovation centers, take IT to tier 2 locations, create these institutions. The first industrial policy, which brought in reforms like TS, IPAS, etc. They were the need of the day because it was a new state. People were not very sure of whether this new state will rise or collapse, etc., etc. So all those things happened pretty well in those days. But how do you reinvent ourselves? Which are the gaps that you have seen, which you need to fill? So tourism, as you said, is a big gap. Sports is another area which that is also a part of my portfolio. So that is again a big opportunity which we are looking at. In technology, the new generation technologies like AI, how do we give focus to it? In industries, newer things are happening. So while we did the TS, IPAS, etc. in the previous regime, the reality is that most of the benefits went to large companies. We could not offer much to the MSMEs. Similarly, the development was not spread balanced throughout the state. So how do you take care of that? How do you ensure that MSMEs also rise and shine in Telangana? How do you ensure that all 33 districts or whatever is practical and realistic also benefit from industrial growth and development? So some of the things which were missing are now getting captured. So the regional ring road will be a very big game changer. The way 20 years ago outer ring road was. RRR will help us take industries to rest of the state also.
Right.
So both governments have responded to the emerging scenario in the best possible way at that particular time. I've been fortunate to work with the highest level of people in both the governments, and
one achievement. You somehow evade that question.
I'm not able to see. I don't have any issues with answering, but I'm not able to pinpoint what shall I say. So, I mean, more than anything else, I would say this: that the discipline to execute things, implement things, to bring the credibility of the government.
To create this framework, you mean?
To create the framework, to encourage 500 people to move from their private sector careers, to join the government, to ensure that they are always inspired and motivated. These are achievements. So these are not very visible, these are not very tangible. But these are the backbone of what we see today. When you see our exports zooming, amazing kind of companies coming, GCCs queuing up to come to Hyderabad, huge global class infrastructure coming up. These are the backbones which have supported it.
Thank you so much for giving us your time, sir. I'm glad at Just We Believe in Constructive Conversations. I've had a great time understanding your vision of what Hyderabad, where Hyderabad is going to be maybe in the next 5-10 years. And we wish you all the luck with everything you wish to do.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Hopefully, not only in India, but globally, Hyderabad stands out and it's almost there, but at least cements itself as a superpower across the world. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Nice talking to you. Bye-bye.